This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening, thanks for joining us. Manitoba might soon be hanging up on phones in school. An announcement is expected this week from the provincial government on the use of cell phones in school. Before then, 2 school divisions have already implemented bans of their own, and they've had early success. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
Parents and grandparents enjoying the sounds of a picnic without distractions. Girly Manalo says that should happen as well in classrooms. No cell phones.
They get disturbed and distracted instead of listening to the teachers.
Calls to ban cell phones in classrooms are mounting. Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Ontario will do it this fall. Manitoba's progressive conservatives say it's time for the government to follow suit.
I think there are issues that are province-wide that affect all students equally, and I think this certainly falls into that category.
Right now, each school division sets its own rules. Most tell students to keep their phones in their pockets during class, but a few have gone further. The French language school division is entering year 2 of its ban.
They just leave the cell phone at the front on the teacher's desk. They were reluctant at first, of course.
But the superintendent says students warmed up to it.
You can use it during recess, you can use it during lunch.
Steinbach School Division will expand the ban to all kindergarten to grade 8 students. Last year, it was tried in one middle school. It found arguments happening online stopped spilling into the classroom.
The principal and vice principal talked about just a level of calm that was starting to present itself at school.
Education Minister Nello Altamar has previously said he's talking to people about this issue, but the former teacher wouldn't speak to us about it today. The government is promising an announcement around phone use in schools later this week. One parent hopes the government will see cell phones as an asset.
Also does help with anything that needs to be researched. It's not having to run to a book, it's right in front of them.
But others feel differently.
There's just a time for learning and a time for cell phones.
Because for some people, life is better experienced in person. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This week marks a somber anniversary, 10 years since the death of Tina Fontaine. She became a symbol of violence against Indigenous women and girls and was a catalyst for the national inquiry into MMIWG. A decade later, the woman who cared for Tina for most of her life wants her legacy to live on. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports.
Everything in Thelma Favel's house reminds her of her grandniece, Tina Fontaine.
Everything, especially her room. That's where I feel so much closer to her.
The curtains in Favel's living room have been closed since the 15-year-old was killed in 2014. It stops her from looking to see if Tina is walking home.
She was so full of life, so happy.
In the last 10 years, Favel has lived through losing Tina and seeing her accused murderer be acquitted 4 years after her death.
These 10 years, last 10 years have been so hard.
Favel and her friend will host a walk and feast on Saugeen Anishinaabe Nation on Saturday in honor of all Indigenous people.
The shadows of the past are the light of tomorrow.
She'll also read a letter to Tina. August 17th is the day her body was pulled from the Red River in Winnipeg a decade ago. Her death became a catalyst for change, including the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
It's important for us as a government.
Manitoba's first First Nations women in cabinet say Tina left an impactful legacy.
People are getting involved and saying, we want to be a part of this, we want to be a part of the solution.
The majority of the national inquiry's calls for justice, though, have not been completed. And the Manitoba advocate for children and youth, Sherry Gott, says all of her office's recommendations on Tina's case also aren't done.
I continue to call on government to come up with a plan for youth, particularly response for youth that are experiencing crisis in mental health and addictions.
Bernadette Smith says the provincial government is focused on the gaps and where help is needed. Manitoba does expect to release its first MMIW G2S Plus strategy this fall.
Tina Fontaine's legacy literally has saved lives. That little girl has saved lives from coast to coast to coast.
Back in Saugeen, changes are also underway. The First Nation is developing a family law to take over jurisdiction of child and family services. Favel's friend Marilyn Courchain believes the law would have made a difference for Tina.
It is a foundation of something that had to happen, that needs to happen because of what had happened to this little girl. So the people have started saying, enough's enough, we need to do this. We need to protect our children.
I held on to her for 10 long, agonizing years because when she died, part of me died also. Now she wants me to let go.
She says her letter to Tina is her way of saying goodbye.
She'll never be forgotten, but it is time to let her go.
Favel hopes to open her curtains once again, but says Tina's legacy has to live on. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A second monument to remember those involved in Manitoba's deadliest bus crash was unveiled yesterday. This one in Carberry, the town whose firefighters were the first responders to arrive at the crash site. CBC's Zubina Ahmed was there.
Hearts are broken, families are grieving, and a community still feeling an immeasurable loss. The town of Carberry came together Sunday afternoon to unveil a memorial monument at Daylily Garden. The Carberry mayor honored the first responders who played a critical role at the scene of the accident.
We as a community cannot overstate the thanks we have for these people and their efforts that day.
The crash near Carberry killed 17 people and left 8 others injured. The first responders are still making their way through the enormity of what happened.
You would have met Grant.
It was quite the scene, to be honest. I've been involved with EMS and fire departments for over 30 years, and by far the worst scene that any of us have ever been to.
This monument is for them. Benches, trees, all to honor not just the victims and survivors, but also those who worked to save them.
We've all come through it more resilient and stronger because of it, and it's brought mental health to the forefront for us, and we're doing a lot of things to try and promote that as well. So.
Levon Shosinski's mother was one of the ones who didn't survive.
Once we get these memorials completed after today, we can move on and just continue with the healing process and just have some place that we can go to remember them.
Patrick Focalo lost his mom. He says so many lives have changed since that day.
Because it's been just over a year now, and the emotions daily, there's all kinds of triggers go on up there. When you hear of a car crash on the highway, automatically it comes back to, the day of that it happened.
The province says it will provide ongoing support for the mental health of all first responders. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Carberry.
2 people are dead and a third is in critical condition after being hit by drivers in separate incidents just hours apart. Police say a 28-year-old man was killed while crossing Pembina Highway between Plaza Drive and Adamar Road when he was hit by a southbound vehicle around 4 a.m. Saturday. Now, just hours earlier, a 49-year-old woman died after being hit on the Harry Lazarenko Bridge. Police say she was lying on the road and was struck by a westbound vehicle. And on Friday, a third man was taken to hospital in critical condition after being hit while crossing Main Street at Smithfield Avenue. Meantime, 2 other people have died in a weekend crash in northeastern Manitoba. Mounties were called to a single vehicle rollover on Provincial Road 287 south of Cormorant on Saturday afternoon. Investigators say a vehicle heading east with 5 people inside lost control, entered the ditch and rolled. A 35-year-old and 36-year-old man both died. The driver and another passenger were flown to hospital in Winnipeg with life-threatening injuries. A seniors group in Winnipeg is grappling with rental hike that's raising fees to 10 times what it normally pays. Over the last decade, Archwood 55 Plus had been paying $100 a month to operate out of the Archwood Community Centre. Its programs just for 4.5 days each week between September and June. That amounted to $5 per day. The fee was increased in January, then doubled in May, and now they're told starting next month they'll be charged $50 a day, a cost too high for the organization that helps seniors stay active and social.
Basically, exercise programs, cognitive challenges, all the things that keep elderly people healthy down the line rather than hanging out in front of a drugstore.
Archwood Community Centre tells CBC $50 a day is still below the building's value. The group hopes to meet with the area's city councillor to find a solution. Well, we're now almost halfway through August. Those mornings are a little bit darker each day as we get up, but the summer weather is sure sticking around. Ethan Williams is in now for a look at your forecast. Ethan.
Well, thanks, Brittany. Gorgeous day today, really all across the province. Not often we get to say this. Churchill, our hotspot, getting over 30 degrees. Yesterday and today, the first time actually this summer that we've seen temperatures over 30 in the Churchill area of the province. That, of course, where we're seeing heat warnings still in place all along the northern part of the province, likely lasting not only today but into tomorrow as well. It's in this region that we're also seeing, it's not showing up on the map here, but we have some air quality statements for that area, as well as Lynn Lake, Thompson, and God's Lake extending into northwestern Ontario as well. And those air quality statements, the result of all of this smoke that you see here piled up in northeastern Saskatchewan, beginning to move on this ridge of high pressure into northern Manitoba over the next couple of days. Should be thinning out a little bit as we get probably into Wednesday, but for tonight and especially tomorrow, I think it's still going to be a factor, and more fires burning in northern Saskatchewan mean that could continue to move our way. But for tomorrow, the weather picture remaining pretty much the same for all of us. Big ridge of high pressure still in place, lots of clear skies throughout the province. Little cloud cover along the Hudson Bay coast, but things change as we get into Wednesday. We've got this area of low pressure developing in Saskatchewan. A few showers ahead of that as we move into early Wednesday morning, even into the Red River Valley possibly. And then I think more widespread showers as we get into Wednesday afternoon and evening, and probably into Thursday as well, and some lingering cloud cover even on Thursday too. Wind's going to pick up a little bit in advance of that. They'll be breezy tonight in the far north, getting into the 40 to 50 range as we get into tomorrow afternoon, and then staying breezy likely for Thursday, especially for eastern sections. Now, in terms of the forecast tonight, though, we've had a chilly last few nights here with some temperatures dropping well down into the single digits above freezing, but I think tonight we're kind of pulling ourselves out of that. That being said, these clear skies, especially in Westman and parts of the Parkland region, we could drop a few degrees cooler than what you see there. Of course, in the north, the concern is the heat warning, so you won't get much relief from the heat tonight as those temperatures will still be in the upper teens, and that's where we're going to start the day tomorrow as well. Again, a little bit of cloud cover in some eastern sections, but clearing out well into the 20s by the time we hit the noon hour, and again a day near 30 degrees into heat warning criteria for tomorrow afternoon. For southern Manitoba, already in the teens by 7 o'clock. Again, very similar to today as we look at temperatures into the mid to upper 20s with some nice bright skies ahead of some changeable weather coming on Wednesday, which you'll see in your full 7-day forecast, Brittany, coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Ethan. Well, every garden tells a story, and Kathy Kirkland's is one of family memories and resourcefulness. The Oakbank resident has found a way to give new life to things destined for the trash. Community reporter Shanna Lee Vidal stopped by for a tour.
We have some upcycled little planter. It's a little bird cage, and I put a little portulaca flower in there. This actually belongs to my daughter, and 42 years ago her dad had painted it up and given it to her, so that was her try when she was a baby. Almost everything I have in here is upcycled, recycled, secondhand, handmade, or gifts Very little of it is bought brand new.
How did this garden start?
47 years ago, I received a plant from a special friend. And I lived up north, and I really enjoyed taking care of this plant. And it just grew from there.
It looks a little unusual. Tell me the story behind this chair.
Well, this is a project my son Kirk had at school, and he's in the shops, and he made this and brought it home, and he wasn't going to keep it, and I said, no, Mom's keeping that one.
You know, you've pretty much done most of this work yourself. What's your motivation?
I just love being outside. I really like being outside, but I'm not one to just sit. I have to do stuff. I have some vegetable corner, which is all made out of wood that has been salvaged out of an old deck that we had, or some pallets. I see now I'm starting to get some beans ready to pick. So I have the beans in here, some romaine lettuce on the end here, which is also ready to pick. And this is one of my prizes. This is kohlrabi. So this is what I call my nature's berm. Put this in and let natural flowers just bloom.
I love this bench you have here. Is this upcycled?
This is also an upcycled piece, or recycled piece. This was gifted to me from my son, and he actually had a paving stone company, and when they go to job sites, they have to remove the old things and put the new things in, and he knows I like old stuff.
I don't think I know anybody who has a backyard pond.
Oh, I love my pond. I love the sound, the tranquility of it all. I love just listening to it, watching the plants grow. The goldfish are thriving this year. You can put lots of different plants in here, but I'm slowly building it up.
Kathy, I'm excited to see the rest of your garden here. You have something viney hanging all down through this trellis.
I do, yes. Yeah. I have a lovely grapevine, and it's actually loaded this year. I guess with all the rain we've had, it sure has helped it. It's nice for people to come and visit and just to enjoy it as well. I do it all for everybody.
Heading home. After being forced to flee Jasper during a massive wildfire, people from the community are told they will soon be able to return. More after the break. Stay with us.
They should think twice. Parks Canada's Jonathan Large says trails, campgrounds, and day-use areas remain closed.
Many risks remain in closed areas such as ash pits, reduced air quality, hazardous trees, and hazardous waste requiring containment. It will take some time for these areas to reopen.
A local state of emergency will remain in effect in Jasper while crews work to bring power, water, and gas back online for the entire town. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Happened within 45 minutes. Suddenly, my basement started filling up with water.
Rick Aquino is one of hundreds of Quebecers still dealing with the effects of Friday's flooding. Remnants of Tropical Storm Debbie hit the province with record rainfall. More than 1,200 homes were flooded. Residents and businesses were left without power or drinking water. The mayor of Louisville in the Mauricie region says he's never seen such bad flooding before.
On n'a jamais vu ça. On dirait que c'est comme un tsunami qui descendait dans la ville.
It felt like a tsunami washed over the city, says Yvonne Deshays. Most of the floodwater has receded, but Deshays says the cleanup efforts are just beginning. Donald Trump will try to inject some much-needed momentum into his presidential campaign tonight. The Republican presidential nominee will do an interview with Elon Musk on his social media platform, X. Trump started posting on the platform today for the first time in a year. Polls show the former president has lost his lead in key states to Vice President Kamala Harris. As Ashley Burke tells us, Trump is hoping to find his footing after weeks of losing the spotlight to Harris.
We can now project the winner of the presidential race. Donald Trump wins the presidency.
After taking a hit in the polls in 3 key swing states, Donald Trump made his return to X today with a series of videos on a platform where he was once banned.
What started off as unlikely, impossible, is now reality.
One produced like a Hollywood movie trailer features a dramatic thunderstorm, triumphant music, and special effects. It stars Trump as the hero of his own story.
This is the epitome of the abuse of the prosecutorial power.
Wrongfully targeted by the justice system and the only one who can, against the odds, return to the White House to save America.
We will take back our country.
But the reality is, Trump's campaign is now on the defense. It doubled its ad buys over the weekend, escalating Trump's paid messaging by another $37 million, including ads in some battleground states like Pennsylvania, where one poll suggests Harris is now in the lead. And tonight, he's going live with a friendly donor, billionaire Elon Musk, who owns X. Pollster and communications strategist Frank Luntz says if the election were today, a series of polls suggest Kamala Harris would defeat Trump.
She would win, as it's not just about momentum, it's also about passion. And Harris voters are even more eager to vote for her than Donald Trump voters are to him. We've not seen that in the entire campaign.
The entire campaign has changed dramatically and at lightning speed.
Kamala Harris!
Trump's team's been knocked off kilter ever since.
Residents of Jasper, Alberta will be allowed to go home Friday. 3 weeks ago, wildfire forced thousands out of the national park and town site.
This re-entry is not to be confused with rehabilitation. We have allowed re-entry, and some will be able to go home, but for many, re-entry will simply be an opportunity to assess either their business or their home or both.
A third of the structures in Jasper were destroyed in the fire. 5,000 people live in the town. Essential services have now been restored. But residents are being told not to count on spending their first night at home. There are no restrictions on who is allowed in, but the mayor is asking any visitors to give residents time and space. Ukraine's military says it now controls 1,000 square kilometers of Russia's Kursk region after staging a surprise incursion last week. It led to the evacuation of communities in the western region. Vladimir Putin is vowing a tough response. But as Kayla Hounsel reports, this development might change Russians' perceptions of its war in Ukraine.
Russians fleeing their homes, feeling the impacts of war. The country now evacuating a second region, Belgorod. 120,000 people in total, it says, since Ukraine fought its way into Russia. I was in my room. I lay huddled up and it went bang, 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 says this woman. It's been a week since Ukrainian troops battled their way across the border into Russia's Kursk region in a surprise ground assault. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is now acknowledging the offensive, saying Russia brought war to others and now it's coming back home. Russian President Vladimir Putin convened a meeting of his security officials, vowing to kick the enemy out. The regional governor says Ukraine is now controlling 28 villages in Russia.
Slava Ukraini!
Ukrainian forces raising their flags, stomping on Russia's, are believed to be operating more than 30 kilometers inside Russia, the first occupation of Russian territory since the Second World War.
I think that that's deeply traumatizing for the Russian psyche.
This defense expert says this is a significant moment that could change public opinion of the war inside Russia.
And it's very clear from accounts on the ground in Kursk that there's significant anger at the Russian authorities, that they feel abandoned. However, the key question is, does this fundamentally persuade the Kremlin that the war is not worth it or that it has to settle? And I think the answer to that is no.
As thousands of Russians arrive in Moscow seeking refuge, analysts say Ukraine has managed to shift the dynamic of the war, but they warn that could change again. Kayla Hounsel, CBC News, London.
Still ahead, Ethan Williams is in next with his look at the 7-day forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
And other area communities. The section of line going to Puckatawagan was taken over by the Keewatin Rail Company. Tony Mayhem is the CEO. He says up to 15% of the trains have been cancelled in the last year because of staff shortages and Transport Canada regulations.
Things happen basically out of our control, and there's nothing that we can do about it.
Mayhem adds, while his company runs the track and trains, Arctic Gateway Group provides the crews. Mike Spence chairs Arctic Gateway.
A person called in sick, and we weren't able to respond quick enough because of the issue with replacement workers on that train. We apologize. It's one of these things that are uncontrollable at times, and we're working towards improving.
John Colombe hopes so. He doesn't relish the thought of another 2-day walk.
That train, it's our lifeline. It's what keeps us going as a community.
Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We close with an unusual summer road trip and a dose of Canadian kindness. While many people avoid picking up hitchhikers, the character you're about to meet is getting plenty of rides. And he doesn't even have thumbs.
Hey TikTok, we found Lucky the lobster in there from Prince Edward Island. He needs a drive, he's hitchhiking. So a lady picked him up in Moncton and brought him out to Rishabakto.
One of many roadside encounters people are having with Lucky. He's a bright red plush lobster who's heading west from PEI. Albertans Chris and Karen McCallum bought the souvenir crustacean while visiting the province this summer. They also bought a full-sized lobster trap, a bit too big for the overhead compartment on their flight home. So the couple decided to leave Lucky in the trap on the side of the road, along with some detailed and hopeful shipping instructions. They're documenting his journey on social media and have amassed nearly 20,000 TikTok followers. The McCallums actually tried the same thing in 2010, but the lobster trap disappeared somewhere around Chicago. This time, they've gone high-tech.
We've got an air tag in it so we can track it. And we'll just see where it goes, and hopefully it'll get hitchhiked all the way across the nation and end up at our place in Okotoks, just south of Calgary, Alberta.
According to Lucky's latest update, he was near Thunder Bay, Ontario, as of Sunday. But he's going to need some help crossing the prairies. So, if you're motoring west, consider giving Lucky the lobster a lift. Don't worry, he doesn't have escape clause. This has been Your World Tonight for Monday, August 12th. I'm Tom Harrington. Thanks for listening. Stay safe and take care of each other.
This is a news update on CBC Radio 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Good evening. I'm Riley Leitchuk at 6:28 right now, 25 degrees in Winnipeg, 26 in Brandon, mainly sunny skies this hour. Thompson right now.
We'll copy today's forecast and put it on to tomorrow, another warm day in Winnipeg. Changes come Wednesday when we get some showers moving through in the afternoon, and then a return to seasonal conditions as we get into the weekend and beginning of next week. Maybe a couple bumps here and there, some showers possible on Saturday, but that clearing out pretty quickly for Sunday and Monday. Gorgeous night to view the Aurora Borealis last night, or the last couple of days, and we want to thank our friend Abby from right here at CBC Winnipeg for grabbing these shots from the south end of the city today. Could be another chance, Brittany, to see some spectacular aurora again tonight. And of course, we have some nice clear skies as well. So if you can stay up that late, you might just get some great shots once again.
Thanks, Ethan. Well, it's hard to outsmart a top predator in the wild or even in a zoo. Here's your daily lift. This is the hidden camera that zookeepers had recently placed in a lion enclosure in Portland. It didn't stay hidden for long. Within days, the curious lions found the camera. It still ended up capturing a series of wild selfies, but who can blame the animals? We've all accidentally taken pictures while messing around with those settings. It's not a bad selfie. And if you can stay up this evening, you might get a shot at seeing those aurora borealis. I'm sure going to try. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.